You're looking for the straightforward blueprint on how you can make $40,000 per month as a life insurance agent. My name is Trey. I'm the owner of Agent Lead Lab. The past 3.5 years, we've been able to help 550 agents issue pay $40,000 a month. And in this video, I'm going to be breaking down exactly what one of those agents who is consistently writing 30K talks about and goes through. So this is a series where I'm going through case studies of our clients, people that I've interviewed, so you all can have a little bit more of a background of how these people got here and what this looks like. So this is Raf now. We actually met at the top of this year. So it's 2025 as of this recording. So in January, we met. I was actually traveling with my wife. We were back home. And during the time, I got introduced through one of my good friends. And he was like, hey, I have an agent who wants to get some leads. And I was like, all right, perfectly fine. And essentially what happened was we get on a call. I get on a call with Raf now. He's based in Florida. So we're talking and he's like, man, I've been hearing great things about your mortgage protection leads. He was like, I'm used to working final expense. I've done a little bit of mortgage. I do mailers. I do in person. Can you relate to this? I'm looking for a trusted source, the traditional conversation that's always had. And what happened was we essentially started out with him buying some aged leads. I think he bought a pack of, I want to say 100. He probably made, one or two sales. But it wasn't necessarily the fact that he made those sales that made him come back. It was the fact that he knew that we had way more to offer. So what I tell a lot of our clients, right, and use him as an example, is the reason why I think we've been able to have success. I'm not inherently like great. I generally don't think so. I think I work a little bit harder than the average person. And I'm willing to just take no. And I'm not willing to take no. And I'm also willing to just ruthlessly evaluate myself and see whether or not like I'm actually doing things I need to do. And I hold myself accountable. One of the things that he and I related on quickly was he was like, man, I can just tell that you're actually really serious about this and you actually care about people. And I sent him to our website at the time, like, hey man, just go look at these other agents and we'll go through some of them. I'm scrolling upwards now. But yeah, he was like, hey, what do I need to do? I want to do 30, 40K pretty consistently. I've hit it a few times. What do I need to do? So in the midst of our conversation, I was like, hey, you bought the age leads, but how about we get you on something fresh, right? Why don't we get you rolling on some fresh mortgage protection leads? I was like, they're similar to mailers. They're all going to be text verified, no bad numbers. And I said, I think you'll do really well. First month in, 25K, right? Second month in, 30, and I ranges between like 30 and 35 pretty consistently. I think he's either 40K. And then we actually got him into our advanced market training program with one of our sales advisors. And he's now helping him. He wrote, I think it was 50K 2 months ago. And yeah, he hasn't really looked back since because he's interested in getting into like annuities, more like advanced market business eventually. So if you're new here, please watch this video. But I want to break down essentially kind of like agent's journey. Okay. Now, I think this is super important. So we'll use him as an example, right? When he started, was doing FEX. Now, most people that watch this video, if you're doing final expense, you feel like it's just bread and butter. I'll just stay here. This is like, just make it simple. It's like, okay, well, look, yes, you can do that. I don't inherently think there's anything wrong with that, but I do think that if your reason for not doing it is because you don't want to learn how, or it seems like it's too hard or it's too difficult, that is not a good reason to not transition from final expense or vet into mortgage protection. The difference and the quality of client is drastic when you go into something like mortgage protection. Most agents are afraid to make that jump because they know that there will be a learning curve. My recommendation is that you start with age leads. I just realized I forgot my train of thought. Going back to what I was saying, you need to understand this, right? So like, just think about this. So when you get an agent who's transitioning into something new, most people will say like, hey, just get better leads. It's going to solve your problems. It's like, you need to find out how to improve your skill set with the lowest barrier of entry. Okay, so aged leads is such a good thing to start with because you're not going into it expecting to close everybody. guys, you buy age leads to close one, maybe two deals. That's it. It's not meant to just, oh man, I got 100, I'm supposed to close 10. Like, you have the wrong expectations. If you think like that, you're going to fail just inherently, because you're going to be upset when your conversion rate is not as high as you want it to be. It needs to be like 1 to 2%, because the ROI from a one policy is going to be significantly higher than what you pay for age leads. If it's lower, then that's a problem. You need to get better age leads. That's why I price my age leads the way that I do, because at the end of the day, I understand that, like, if you're okay, if you're buying age leads, it's for a reason. You have two reasons. Number one, you're really skilled and you want your cost per acquisition to be really, really low, right? Now, that's not everybody, because that's a set list of people. Like, if you're an agency owner, you don't want to do that. You don't really have time to sit there and dial all day, because it requires you to still dial. Like, you're not going to buy a batch of age leads and like get the first 10 and just rip through them and sell every time. You may do that once, but every time you do that, it's not going to work. So why do people buy more expensive leads? They do that because they inherently want to limit how much time they have to spend, not because they're trying to necessarily make more. Those same agents could take those age leads and their cost per acquisition would be lower, and they could make as much if they ran the age leads. They could. It's because it's a skill thing, right? So I price my leads so low because I know that the people that really need it are the people that can't afford it. And I need to give them more at bats. So if I give them more at bats, I get them wins. And if I get them wins, I gain their trust. And if I gain their trust, I gain their business. Right. So that's like my thought process. Some people are too money hungry to do that, or they have like too much staff to pay. I've created my dynamic because of that. Rafnell is a product of that, because he wants his agents, he wanted himself to learn a skill. So the easiest way for me to do that is say, hey, you need to learn how to do IULs. You need to learn how to do, or advanced markets. You need to learn how to do mortgage protection. You should go buy these leads to get your teeth kicked in, to learn the skill. Because we can sit here and practice all day, but that doesn't matter. It's like in sports, right? Like, coach would be like, hey, look, like, we can do all this practice reps, but until you get out there and bullets are flying, it doesn't really matter. It's like anything. Like, you have to actually start getting reps. You can't prep and train all day long. It's like, you got to go out there and get your teeth kicked in. So the way I look at it is, he started out in final expense, like so many people, even people probably watching this, but where he wanted to go, right? So where he wanted to go was mortgage. Okay, so easiest barrier to entry has to be age leads. It has to be, because if you don't have those age leads to actually work properly, then it does not inherently help you become a better sales rep. So when you buy fresh leads, you're going to close. The worst thing you could do is not know how, like in his situation, the worst thing I could have done is told him to buy the verified mortgage leads and him not be good. Because what's going to happen is he's going to blame the leads, right? When it's age leads, you go into it knowing like these suck. So the expectation is always on your skill. So if you refine yourself and get really good with age leads, you will crush fresh leads and you'll have a newfound appreciation. The problem is people don't work age leads enough to learn the value in having fresh leads. And then they get the fresh leads and blame the leads, when in reality, they're just not good. Like, you should be able to sell $10,000 off of age leads. If my firm belief is, if you cannot do that, you don't really need to be doing fresh leads. And that's, in my opinion, why we've helped so many people be successful. Because if I force you to do age leads and I'm like, hey, this is what I recommend, you got to get through it. Yes, they suck. I understand that. Just keep hammering away. It's a low cost. Get your skills better. And then I introduce to you fresh leads. Your mindset is drastically different. You approach the leads differently. And that's all that happened with FNO. He was already doing well. I'm not saying that I came in and made him a superstar. I'm just saying that he transitioned into doing that. It's another thing he learned, right? He learned a skill set. So halfway through, probably in the middle of March, so we started in January, in the middle of March, in February, late January, he started learning how to leverage, right, mortgage leads for IULs, right? So I had another gentleman who's doing the same thing. He works with us, he's one of our sales advisors. He's one of the best in the game. He was literally closing people on like IULs from mortgage leads. I was like, okay, that's interesting. So I started telling more agents to do that. And then what I noticed is that's when I figured out the demographic piece. I always knew that, but I didn't look at it like that. And I didn't understand why. Then I started recognizing, oh, okay, cool. Right? So these homeowners are really like ideal clients. And if you get them on the phone and you position them right, you're actually probably going to help them out more. And you can probably sell more qualified IULs through mortgage protection leads that you'd be surprised about. So he learned the skill set. He's like, all right, I know how to do mortgage, but there's a specific demographic. So I told him about the gentleman, the sales advisor he got with the sales advisor. Guess what happened? He improved his skill, right? Proved his skill and started writing more. Mindful. This video that we did, the interview was back in like April, maybe May. It's currently November, and he had his biggest month in August. I want to say he did like 55K, right? All off the leads, plus improved skill. Now, some people are probably watching this like, all right, what do you mean like improved skill? What does that even like functionally mean? How does that relate to me? It's like, okay, if I give you a final expense lead and all you quote the person is 10,000, 15,000, 20,000, you are losing out on a lot of money. You're losing out on building inherent value in the close, making more. It goes back to the video I said about demographics, but understand that you're solving a pain point of a specific demographic. So what Rafnell learned is that homeowners have multiple pain points. We've already went over that in a previous video, but I explained how these homeowners typically want to protect their assets. They want to have income for when they pass, and they want to have life insurance. Well, most agents only typically cover like they instead of calling it for their assets, they just focus on mortgage. So they go mortgage is one, right? So this is what most people do. So most agents, when selling mortgage, this is how they think about it, how they think. Okay. So number one, they're going to sell the mortgage balance. Okay. So that's going to be in full or partial. Okay. The second thing is they're going to sell the income replacement. So this is going to be like job loss, leftover money, whatever it may be. And then the last thing is end of life arrangements, which essentially can be like cremation and funeral. Now, unfortunately, I'm going to be transparent. Most agents just do this. And they wonder why their premium stinks. They wonder why they don't write big policies. This is all they do. They just focus on this, mortgage balance. And then most of them think, oh, these leads want to have it full. It's like, dude, you literally, if you look at these as all skills. So look at these as all skills, just like micro skill. So skill, right? Skill. I'm going to explain what this means. Skill. Okay. Income replacement, skill. These little multifaceted is skill. This can go on. We're just going to use the basic one. Skill. Okay. End of life arrangements, skill. Then these are inside the same category. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 8 skills that you need to learn in order to create value to close clients, which is what I'm going to go back to explaining how Rafnell did it. Okay. So we're going to do that. Let's talk about it. So mortgage balance. This is, hey, you filled a form out for mortgage protection. I need to get you term. This is like the most basic level of thinking that agents operate at, because they think that mortgage protection is for term to cover your house. No, mortgage protection is a form of life insurance designed to protect homeowners by leveraging life insurance. That's it. It's just life insurance for your home or your assets. And you can come up and say asset protection, people say like estate, there's estate planning, like there's all these fancy names. It doesn't matter. The client is filling out the form to cover their mortgage in the event something happens to them. Or at least that's what they understand. Your job is to go in and explain what else can happen outside of their mortgage. You're just going after people who have mortgages, because people that have mortgages raise their hand. It's harder to identify. When you say, hey, do you have a mortgage? If something happens to you, will you be protected? No. Perfect. You need to talk to somebody. When you get on the phone, it's your job to help them. Most people just say, I'm going to cover their mortgage balance because that's what they want. The question is, what do they need? It's not what do they want. It's what do they need. Most people want their whole mortgage covered. They can't do that. Okay, what do you need? You need to have these things, okay? So mortgage balance, that's where most agents stop. They get frustrated. They can't sell mortgage protection because they're like, everybody wants to cover their house in full. Duh, every person would want to do that. But that doesn't mean just because that's what they want, that's not what they need. Your job is to give them what they need. You are an advisor. You're a licensed representative. Your job is to help them. They don't know. They think, oh, I have to cover my whole mortgage. When you start explaining what protecting the equity is, and how they can do that, explaining what happens through probate, explaining what happens if they don't get something in place, they think they can just sell their house. You need to educate them on how that works. People don't look that up. Your real estate agent or whoever helps you find the home is not telling you that. Nobody explains that to you. If you haven't had anybody who's gone through that, they wouldn't understand. That's why they're raising their hand. Most people don't even know that in general. It's like, oh, how do you protect the equity of your home? I don't know. I just sell the house. No, what? Like you're losing. No, that makes zero sense. Selling a house is not that simple. It doesn't work like that. It can, but it typically does not work like that. If there are tons of things going on, unless you have the money along with so people don't think, they just think I have to sell that. Okay, that's number one. The second skill is understanding how to, so just knowing that you got to attack their mortgage balance or their assets, which we'll go into because most people stay at mortgage balance, understanding their assets. This falls in the same category. This may not just be their mortgage. It might be other things that they have that they need to protect. Okay, so let's talk about this. Paying in full or part or covering full or partial. That's a skill. Because some people can't even explain like what's the value in covering the whole house in full. You can't just say, yeah, you have a $300,000 mortgage. We're going to get you a $300,000 coverage. And that's it. Like if you think like that, you will fail. You may make some sales, but you will fail doing mortgage protection leads, at least digitally, and probably even the same thing with mailers. Because there's just too many factors that go into it, and there's too many problems to solve. You need to be a problem solver. Okay. So one of the things that Raphael identified was like, I'm not inherently solving enough problems. Like he knew how to do this, and he really knew how to do like this, obviously. But this piece, right, which expands upon when you start talking about income replacement, it's not just through life insurance, which we'll talk about in a second. There's also a realm, right, which you're leveraging life insurance as a vehicle. And some people call that IUL. Some people call that like whatever you want to call it, right? But my bad, my spelling's not great. A vehicle, right? You also have an annuity. This falls in here because income replacement as you get older, right? So let's stay at mortgage skills. So you need to understand that these three are skills: attacking the balance and understanding what it is, what it looks like, and the value inherently in it. Do they pay it in full or partial? That's based on equity, what they can afford, where they're at, what their goals are. If you don't assess that, you're screwed. If you just say, hey, we're going to get you coverage for this, you're not going to sell anything. There's no pain points to pull on. Second thing, income replacement. So let's dive into this. So traditionally, income replacement is, hey, John, if you pass away and you and Susie are making, $5,000 a month, you're making $2,500, she's making $2,500. The mortgage is $2,000, so you guys are good to cover. You have $3,000 left over. That covers, all of your expenses, etc. You go through their budget, which you should be going through a full budget. People are like, oh no, I just asked them. It's like, no. Like, all right, cool. So like, let's break down your budget because obviously we're trying to find something and figure out what the best option for you is based on how much. So my job is to figure out like, okay, does this work in your budget? Because if it doesn't, there's no point in me giving you a number that's not relative to where you're at. So let's just break this budget down real quick. So what you do is you say that, and then you go into it. Now, the thing is, people don't factor in. They're like, okay, well, if I cover my whole mortgage, let's say you do cover the whole mortgage. Perfectly fine. Perfectly fine. Cover the whole entire mortgage. If they plan on selling the crib, which most people, if they're covering the whole mortgage, they don't plan on selling it. Because if they're planning on selling it, they just do partial and cover the equity, right? So if you cover the whole mortgage and you don't attack income replacement, you're leaving money on the table. So you can literally say, hey, like, this is to replace your income, right? And essentially, because if you pass right now, John, yeah, we covered the whole mortgage balance, but now your wife's living off $2,500, and your current bills, what you guys are paying, is $3,000, right? So it's like, how are we going to do that? They're like, oh well, I'll just do it. It's like, no. You just said you were going to pay the house off, okay? So what we need to do is we need to leverage either part of that. We need to put aside what we call income replacement. So what I like to do for my clients, John, is I like to take $500 and multiply that times a year. That's $6,000, right? That we need to have, because that would move her up from her $2,500 to $500. Now, realistically, if we wanted to replace the income, that's the least amount we could have. So that'd be $6,000 for one full year. Maybe that gives her time to like go get a job, etc. So, but in a more realistic situation, we want to replace that. So if it's $2,500 that you're making a month, then you multiply 2,500 times 12. Right, which would give us about, I don't know what the math on that is, like let's just say it's $30,000, $30,000. So not only do we need to cover your mortgage balance, which is $300,000, the second option we need to look at, that would be like our bronze, worst case scenario, John. We need to make sure we can cover that. But our silver is going to be income replacement and blah, blah, blah. And once again, this is like after you've gone through the MIB, like you have an understanding of where they're at, what it looks like, etc. You tell them different options that they can look at based on what they can qualify for health wise. So once again, we can sit here and talk all day about like, oh, this, that, and the third, but that should be beforehand. This is not a sales training. This is just explaining how agents think and what Ravenel did to start increasing his income and hit that 55K month. Okay. So income replacement, this one's very difficult. Now, that's like the bare bones. Like, hey, replace your job, any leftover money. Can we do that? Right. And then you set the amount, you multiply it times the year, and you figure out how much they need. So it's like 30K. Now we've allocated 300,000 goes to the mortgage, 30K. So we got to at least look at the mortgage coverage, it's 300K, then 330,000. Does that make sense, John? Yes. Cool. Do you know why we're doing that? Yes. Any questions on why we would set that up? No. Perfect. Let's move on to the next one. So then you go down, right? Now that's that one. The next one is going to be, if you do that same thing, let's say John is making way more money and Susie's making money and they got savings. It's like, cool. Yeah, totally understand. But like, let's walk through this, right? So you pass away, 2,500. I understand you guys got a big load of savings. But let's talk about like, what are you doing with that savings? So then you potentially look at moving them over into an annuity or some form of a rollover or some form of life insurance. So you tell them, hey, we're going to cover that, but we're also going to knock two birds out with one stone because we're going to actually get you qualified for an IUL. That's how it builds cash value. Here's what your policy is going to be able to do. You're going to be able to do this, that, and that. Boom, 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 boom. Over the years, if God forbid something happens, like cool. Or use a whole life plan. But now you're actually leveraging life insurance as a vehicle to knock two birds out to give them future income, right? Which they can draw from and to cover their mortgage balance. It's a win-win across the board. Most people don't get there though. So what that means is you're losing out on premium. You think that people that are writing 55K are just buying more leads. Yes, relatively speaking. But in reality, especially when you talk about mortgage, IUL, whole life, and annuities, they're literally just pulling more out of every deal. It's not like you write 55K, you have 55 deals like for $1,000. No, like you have a 8K, a 5K, a 15K, a 3K, a 3K, a 3K, a 9K, like it fluctuates because you're pulling inherent value out of it. Like if you do the budget right and you understand how much money they have, your job is to figure out how to help them based on that budget. It's not to max it out, but it's to solve problems. Homeowners have a lot of problems because this right here is just an annuity. This is like, hey, give us your income. This is for the mortgage. This next thing is final expense. Do you see how we're addressing all three with one lead type? So you got to find one pain point out of three. Okay, so those are three more skills because understanding and assessing the income, what we need to do. Do we need income now? Do we need income for the future? That's income replacement for the future. So it's replacing future income with whatever you would need, right? Or replacing your current income with new income that would maintain your way of life. And then end of life arrangements. Okay, most people don't even think about this in mortgage. They're like, it's gonna cover their mortgage. It's like, dude, you say, okay, you got 30,000, 300,000, you got 330,000. And then on top of that, last one would be, we'll look at like a 355,000. So about $25,000 towards your cremation. You figure out what their issues are. Now they're like, dude, they're stuck because they're like, okay, absolute worst case scenario, we got to cover the mortgage, right? Next step is like, if we can cover the mortgage and give you a year income replacement, that sounds good. It's like, all right, well, we want to knock out all three, right? So like, let's see what we can get approved for, if any of these plans even make sense, right? And then we can decide on what it looks like to move forward. And in the process of that, right, like you don't say that unless you've already, done your, and we're not going to focus on that, but you base that off of once you figured out what they're going to actually qualify for based off your understanding, the questions that you ask them, et cetera. If you start asking people questions at the beginning about their health and they're banged up, like, dude, they're banged up. Like don't pitch them covering their full balance, pitch them partial and still do the three. Those are the three ways you can do it. Okay, so all that Ravenel did was he took this, which he wasn't really doing, and boosted it up to actually start selling more. Because now he said, I'm gonna do ding ding, I'm gonna try to get people into annuity conversations. I'm gonna try to get people into IUL conversations. I'm gonna try to get people into whole life conversations, right? And then he was able to close this gap, the one that most people miss. Some people get the mortgage and they're like, oh, end of life. Most people struggle with understanding how to do income replacement, right? Income growth, income protection, whatever you want to call it, like for their clients. inside of this vehicle. So that's what allowed Raf Nell to grow, because he was like, look, if I can just learn how to do this, I'm going to pull more out of every deal, so I'll make more money. So he's not buying, he didn't buy more leads when he went from 30 to 55. He just got more out of every deal. If you increase your premium by 3 to 4K per deal that you close, if you close an extra 5 deals, that's 20K. It takes you from 30 to 50, like that, with nothing more than just refining your skills, which goes back up to the top. The very first thing I said was he started with final expense. He went to mortgage. He got slapped in the face with aged leads because he had to learn. You got to learn. You got to work the leads properly. You have to learn different ways to pitch and close. If you do not do that, it will catch up to you eventually. If you think that just hopping to new leads is going to solve your problem, you are screwing yourself. So you understand inherently, like, look, if I can figure this out, it will be game changing. That's why I love mortgage protection, because once you figure it out, you are good. You don't need to work leads in the same way that everybody else does. You don't need to dial all day. You call these people in the morning, you book them in the afternoon or evening, you close them. It's simple. It's not rocket science. It's just the fact that people will not go through the process of figuring it out. So as always, please make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe. Hope this video was helpful. If you want others or you have other people, I'm going to just be breaking down clients, what they've done, how they make money. Because I feel like most people tell you this and they never actually explain to you their agent story. Like, I'm here to show y'all, like, we have helped 550 people. We're going to go through a good amount of those people. I have tons of testimonials. We're going to walk through each of them, what they've done, how they do it. Because look, here's the thing. I talk to my clients. I communicate with our partners. I'm in the trenches with them. Like, I think innovatively. I'm not one of these people that's like, yeah, man, just give me some money and like whatever happens, happens. Like, I'm very polar opposite, because at the end of the day, if I help one person make money, then it changed the game. Like, I have an interview today with one of our agents. He made $52,000 off of veteran leads. I think he might have ended the month with more. I'm still gonna wait to see exactly what it was for the total. But like, the reason I'm saying that is because, I have agents who will run the same leads and whine, complain, and fuss. And I'm like, dude, you just suck. Like, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be rude, but a spade is a spade. Like, if I give Johnny the same lead and I give Jane the same lead, and Jane is crushing it and Johnny doesn't sell anything, do you think that the factor is the lead or is it the person? Like, let's just be honest. That's the thing, is like, people don't want to accept and be accountable. And that's really the problem. That's what stops people from growing. It's like, if you're not accountable for the fact that like you're just not good yet, don't blame the leads. Because if you can work aged leads and make sales, you can work fresh leads and make sales. You just got to know how to do it on both ends. But you understanding how to do it takes time and work. You're not just going to be able to call up any lead, no matter where it's at, no matter what company you're with, and they're just going to be ready to buy. You're not going to be able to hop on any sales call, booked appointment, and just close people. You are going to have to learn how to sell. You're going to have to learn how to effectively close, build value, understand problems, assess problems, and figure out exactly what their pain points are and how you paint the picture that you can be the person to solve them or give them the solution for that, which is life insurance. But you can't just pitch it as life insurance. People don't want life insurance. They want what life insurance can do for them and their situation. The moment you figure that out, you make a drastic difference in how much you sell, right? How consistently you are, and then how fast you can build your agency. Because if you can teach your agents how to do the same thing, it's a duplicatable process. It's, look, this is how we do it. We say this, and this. And that's all we've been able to do, is just help people. That's why it's like, in my mind, like, I eventually do want to start an agency and blow it up, because I'm like, I'm already kind of doing those things, but I don't get an override. My kind of override is the fact that like we get a lot of referrals, we get a lot of business, we get a lot of people hitting us up. People like the way that we conduct ourselves because like we genuinely care. We've done this for a pretty decent amount of time. We've helped a lot of people. We know what works and what doesn't. I have data on basically everything when it comes to leads. And it's the only niche that I work in. Like, I don't do other niches. I've thought about it. I've helped out some real estate people. I've had people hit me up about other stuff. It's like, I just want to master this. I just want to be great at this. I just want to be the Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan of the life insurance lead generation game. Like, that's my goal. That's what I'm aiming for. Just absolute takeover. So every day, that's why I'm doing these videos, like to give y'all, like, I was like, yo, I'm gonna lock in and do these. Like, do I enjoy sitting here for 30 minutes? I mean, I guess it allows me to ramble a little bit and get my thoughts out. But at the end of the day, like, I'm looking for that person that wants to come partner with us, that says like, yo, I'm great at sales. I just need somebody to build me a system and give me leads. That's it. I have great sales reps. We're good. We don't complain. We just work. Like, that's what I'm looking for. I'm not As we grow, I become more and more less interested in wanting to work with people that just don't have that mindset. Like it's a partnership. Like my job is to help you get the leads. Your job is to close. We need to work together to figure out what leads need to be generated and how we can improve on them. You give me your feedback, I'll give you mine. Right? We don't butt heads. We work collaboratively. And I have team members who handle the fulfillment and they're world class at what they do. So it's like, as long as we have clear communication, I tell everybody that partners with us, if you treat us like a lead vendor, you're gonna have lead vendor expectations. And I have a lead vending company. So it's like, it makes sense. If you treat me like a partner though, and like we're your marketing team and we work with you, not just for you, and you're not just like yelling at us or like telling us to do stuff, but you don't do your end of the bargain, like we will make a lot of money, you'll make a lot of money, and we'll be in a lasting relationship like a lot of our clients have been and will be for the past 3.5 years. So I hope that helps. Once again, I went on a ramble, but this is just how I'm feeling. This is what I like to say. I like these videos. They kind of allow me to go in depth about our clients and what they've done. So as always, please make sure that you like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you guys soon. Peace.